Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. Tonight, we are traveling through the winding world of the gut, the inner system that turns meals into energy, builds defenses, and even whispers signals that reach the brain. It is easy to think of digestion as background work. Yet inside you, a living landscape is always in motion, sorting what will nourish you and what must be kept out. This is a place of powerful chemistry and careful timing. It is also home to vast communities of microbes that shape how the whole system behaves. Every bite you swallow begins a journey through muscles, liquids, and sensing cells that respond in real time. Across this long passage, your body makes choices. It extracts, protects, repairs, and adapts. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is relax. Let your shoulders soften and allow your eyes to grow heavy. And as you start to unwind, allow the day to gently fade away as we drift through this hidden world together. Let's begin. Your gut is a long, living tube that runs nearly head to toe. It begins at the lips and ends at the exit, and in between it folds, loops, and coils with astonishing efficiency. If you could stretch it out, the small intestine alone would reach the length of a room, yet it fits neatly inside you. That space is not empty. Its walls flex and ripple, churning meals into a smooth stream that can be sorted and processed. Along the way, different regions specialize. One section grinds, another dissolves, another absorbs. The lining is warm and wet, and it is built to handle constant contact with the outside world in the form of food and drink. Even when you're asleep, this corridor keeps moving, measuring, and responding. It is less like plumbing and more like a busy, responsive habitat. Most of your immune system is trained and stationed in the gut. Every day, the immune system faces a puzzle. It must stay calm around dinner, yet react fast to danger. The gut is where that training happens, because it is the main border crossing between you and everything you ingest. Immune cells gather in patches of tissue along the intestines, where they learn what belongs and what does not. They practice restraint around safe proteins and helpful microbes, and they practice speed against suspicious invaders. This is also where the body makes large amounts of protective antibodies that can be released into the digestive tract. When the system is working well, it is alert without being jumpy. When it misreads the situation, you can get allergies, inflammation, or lingering sensitivity. In a real sense, the gut is not only a digestive tract. It is a classroom, a checkpoint, and a standing army. Your gut hosts trillions of microbes that behave like a hidden organ. You are not alone in your own body. In the intestines, vast communities of bacteria and other microbes live in dense neighborhoods, each group adapted to the conditions it prefers. They compete, cooperate, and take turns using the leftovers of your meals. Some are specialists at breaking down fibers that your own enzymes cannot touch. Some help keep troublemakers from gaining a foothold by crowding them out. Together they produce a cloud of chemicals that can influence digestion, immunity, and metabolism. This is why people call the microbiome a hidden organ. It is not made of your cells, yet it performs work that matters. What makes it even more fascinating is how personal it is. Diet, travel, medicines, and stress can all reshape it, sometimes within days. The gut makes most of the body's serotonin, a key mood messenger. Many people think of serotonin as a brain chemical, Yet much of it is produced in the digestive tract, where it acts like a local conductor for movement and sensation. Specialized cells in the gut release it in response to cues like food arriving, pressure building, or irritation in the lining. That serotonin helps coordinate the muscular waves that push contents forward. It also influences how strongly the gut signals discomfort or nausea. The brain does use serotonin too, but the gut's supply has its own jobs, right where the action is. This helps explain why emotions and digestion can feel tangled together. A stressful day can tighten the stomach. A sickness can flatten the mood. The connection is not magic. It is chemistry, happening in two places at once, linked by nerves, hormones, and the immune system signals. Your intestines have their own nervous system, but can act independently. Inside the gut wall is a web of neurons, sometimes called the second brain. It can sense stretch, temperature, and the chemical makeup of what passes through. It can also run local routines without asking the brain for permission. That is useful because digestion is too complex to micromanage. When a meal arrives, the system can trigger mixing motions, open and close valves, and adjust secretions in a coordinated sequence. It can even keep working when spinal signals are disrupted, which shows how self-directed it can be. The brain still influences it, especially through stress and relaxation, but the gut does not wait for instructions to do its basic job. This hidden network is one reason the belly can feel so expressive. It can create cramps, urgency, or calm, based on what it senses in real time. The gut barrier decides what enters your bloodstream and what stays out. The gut lining is only one cell layer thick in many places, which sounds risky until you realize how selective it is. Those cells form tight seals, and they sit beneath a protective coat of mucus that keeps many microbes at a respectful distance. Nutrients must pass through specific gates, and the gates can change depending on the body's needs. Water, salts, sugars, amino acids, and fats all have their own routes and rules. Meanwhile, larger threats are blocked, trapped, or flagged for the immune system to inspect. When the barrier is injured or inflamed, problems can follow. Too much can slip through, and the immune system can become jumpy. When it is healthy, it performs a delicate balancing act. It lets life-sustaining molecules in, while keeping countless irritants out, meal after meal, day after day. Gut microbes can turn parts of your food into vitamins you can absorb. Some nutrients arrive ready to use, but others are finished by microbial partners. In the large intestine, certain bacteria can make vitamin K, which the body needs for normal blood clotting. Others can produce several B vitamins that support metabolism and nerve function. These vitamins are not created out of thin air. Microbes build them from fragments of your diet, using chemical tricks your cells do not have. Then the gut can absorb at least some of what they make. It is a small, ongoing gift from an inner ecosystem. The amazing part is that the microbes need you too. They rely on the fibers and resistant starches that escape digestion earlier on. When those foods are scarce, the vitamin-making workforce can shrink. So a bowl of beans or a serving of oats is not only feeding you, it can also feed the makers who help stock your vitamin pantry. Your gut talks to your brain through nerves, hormones, and immune signals. This conversation is constant, and it is not a metaphor. Sensory nerves carry updates from the intestines to the brainstem, including signals about fullness, irritation, and movement. Hormones released after meals travel in the blood, shaping appetite, energy use, and even how rewarding food feels. Immune molecules also join in, especially during infection or inflammation, when the body needs the brain to change priorities. That is why sickness can bring fatigue, low mood, and a strange, foggy feeling. It is also why butterflies show up in the belly before a big moment. The brain can speed or slow the gut, and the gut can shift how the brain interprets the world. Researchers are exploring how this dialogue influences anxiety, pain sensitivity, and cravings. The most surprising part is that this system evolved for survival. A body that listened to its gut was better at avoiding danger and finding food. Your stomach acid is strong enough to break down many swallowed germs. The stomach is not only a blender, it is also a security chamber. Its acid can reach a level that would damage many microbes, and that harshness helps prevent infections from hitching a ride into the intestines. The stomach also uses enzymes to begin dismantling proteins, turning solid meals into a slurry that can be released in controlled pulses. This cauldron is so intense that the stomach must protect itself every moment. It does that with a thick mucus layer and rapid cell repair. When those defenses are weakened, ulcers can form and the burn becomes pain. Acid levels also matter for digestion. If acid is too low, certain minerals and vitamins are harder to extract from food, and some pathogens survive more easily. So the stomach's sting has a purpose. It is a gatekeeper, and it is a chemical workshop, doing dangerous work safely. The gut is where the outside world becomes part of you, molecule by molecule. Every meal is a pile of foreign material, and yet your body turns it into blood, bone, and brain. That transformation happens through a series of choices. In the small intestine, sugars are split and pulled into the bloodstream for quick energy. Amino acids are absorbed and later stitched into your own proteins, including enzymes, muscles, and hormones. Fats are packaged into tiny particles that can travel through the body to build cell membranes and store fuel. Even water is reclaimed with precision, so your internal chemistry stays steady. What is not absorbed moves on, where microbes take their turn, and what remains is released. It is a remarkable kind of alchemy. The outside world arrives as texture and flavor. Hours later, it has become you, and you have become a little different because your tissues have been renewed with the materials you chose to eat. Your stomach can expand dramatically after a large meal. Before you even take the final bite, the upper stomach begins to relax and make space. Its walls unfold like soft pleats, and the top portion stretches without creating a sharp rise in pressure. This ability is called accommodation, and it helps you hold a meal while digestion gets organized. Stretch sensors in the stomach wall then send signals that shape appetite, comfort, and timing. If the stretch is gradual, you may feel pleasantly full. If it is sudden, you may feel heavy and uneasy. This expansion is also strategic. By acting as a reservoir, the stomach can release food into the small intestine in controlled pulses, so the next stages are not overwhelmed. It is a bit like a loading dock that prevents traffic jams downstream. The strange part is how quickly it resets. Hours later, the same stomach can feel almost empty again. The stomach's protective mucus keeps it from digesting itself. This coating is not a simple slime. It is a carefully built gel that clings to the stomach wall and constantly renews itself. It traps bicarbonate near the surface, which helps create a safer zone right next to the cells, even while the stomach contents stay intensely acidic. In that sheltered layer, stomach cells can focus on their real job, which is producing acid and enzymes without being harmed by them. The mucus also acts like a physical filter. It slows the backflow of acid toward the tissue, and it helps keep many microbes from reaching the surface. When you eat, this barrier adapts. It thickens in busy regions, and it thins where mixing must be strong. It is a quiet piece of engineering, rebuilt again and again, so the stomach can do dangerous work safely. Swallowing starts a coordinated wave that moves food without gravity. A swallow seems simple, yet it is a tightly timed sequence that protects your airway while launching food on its journey. First, the tongue shapes the bite and pushes it back. Then the throat lifts and closes off the path to the lungs for a brief moment, while a muscular gate opens toward the esophagus. After that, a rolling wave of contraction takes over, squeezing from behind and guiding the bolus forward. This wave is driven by nerve circuits that run like a built-in program, so you do not have to think through each step. It works for water, for bread, and for a hurried gulp when you laugh at the wrong moment. It even works in space. Astronauts can swallow just fine because the motion is powered by muscle and timing, not by falling. The esophagus can push food downward even while you are upside down. This tube is not a passive chute. Its walls actively squeeze in sequence, creating a moving pinch that guides food toward the stomach. The pattern can adjust to what you swallowed. A sip of water moves differently than a dense mouthful of rice. If anything sticks, the esophagus can trigger additional ways to clear the path. At the bottom sits a powerful valve that must do two opposite jobs. It opens to let food enter, then it seals to keep stomach contents from creeping back. When that seal weakens, reflux becomes more likely, especially when you lie flat. When the squeezing wave is poorly coordinated, swallowing can feel slow or painful. Yet most of the time, it is flawless. You can eat while reclining, you can drink while doing a handstand, and the esophagus still runs its conveyor belt with steady confidence. The small intestine is where most nutrient absorption quietly happens. This is the true workbench of eating. After the stomach turns a meal into a smooth mixture, the small intestine takes over and begins the careful sorting. In the first section, bile and pancreatic juices arrive to help break fats into absorbable forms. Farther along, sugars and amino acids cross through specialized transporters that act like selective doors. Fats take a different route. They are packaged into tiny particles and enter lymph vessels before joining the bloodstream. Blood from the intestine then travels straight to the liver, which acts as a first checkpoint for nutrients and chemicals. The remarkable thing is how responsive this system is. The intestine can speed up or slow down, and it can change which transporters are active based on diet and demand. Most of this happens without any sensation at all. Your body is harvesting building blocks and fuel, while you simply go on with your day. Tiny, finger-like villi multiply your intestinal surface area enormously. If the small intestine were a smooth tube, it would miss countless opportunities to capture nutrients. Instead, its inner surface rises into thousands of soft projections, each one shaped to create more contact with the passing stream. Inside each villus are tiny blood vessels ready to carry away sugars and amino acids, plus a central lymph channel ready for fats. These structures are not stiff. They sway with the movement of digestion, which helps stir the fluid right at the surface and improve uptake. They also create a geography of valleys and peaks where different microbes and molecules meet the lining in different ways. When villi are damaged, absorption can suffer even if your diet is excellent, because the contact area shrinks. That is why the architecture matters as much as the chemistry. The intestine does not just digest food. It presents it to the body on a vast, textured landscape designed for capture. Even smaller microvilli make the gut lining feel like a living carpet. Zoom in closer and each intestinal cell is crowned with thousands of microscopic bristles. Together they form the brush border, a surface so dense that it looks fuzzy under a microscope. This is not decoration. The brush border holds enzymes that finish the final snips of digestion, right at the point of absorption. It also anchors transport proteins that pull nutrients inward with impressive precision. microvilli are built on a scaffold of actin, the same kind of structural material used in muscle and movement. They can shorten, lengthen, and reorganize as the cell adapts to changing conditions. A thin, sugar-rich coat on their surface helps manage which molecules approach the membrane, and it influences how microbes interact with the lining. The result is a surface that feels almost alive in its complexity. Food does not just wash past. It is processed at close range on a microscopic forest of working tips. The small intestine constantly renews its lining in a rapid cycle. The gut faces a hard problem. It must absorb from the outside world, yet it must stay intact. One solution is speed. Deep in tiny pockets called crypts, stem cells divide and send new cells upward like a slow-moving escalator. As the cells travel, they mature into different roles, including nutrient absorbers and protective secretors. After a short career, they are shed into the intestinal stream and replaced by fresh ones. This renewal helps erase small injuries before they grow into bigger ones. It also helps remove cells that have been stressed by toxins, infections, or harsh foods. The pace is so steady that your intestine is quietly rebuilding itself all the time, even between meals. When this renewal is disrupted, the effects can be dramatic. Some treatments for cancer, for instance, can cause digestive distress because they also slow fast-dividing cells in the gut. The intestine's refresh cycle is a form of resilience, written into its daily routine. Your gut lining is one of the body's fastest regenerating tissues. This speed is not free. Rapid rebuilding demands energy, protein, and a steady supply of key nutrients, because new cells must be made constantly. It is one reason the body protects digestion during illness, even when appetite drops. The gut still needs resources to maintain its frontline. Compared with slower tissues, a fast renewing lining can recover quickly from small insults, but it can also be sensitive to shortages. When nutrition is poor, the body may struggle to keep that renewal robust, which can affect absorption and comfort. This is also why the gut is such a powerful place for learning about health. Changes in stress hormones, inflammation, and diet can show up here early, because the tissue is always turning over and responding. In a way, the gut lining is like a busy construction site that never closes. Old cells leave, new cells arrive, and the barrier must stay functional the whole time. Digestive enzymes are released in carefully timed chemical choreography. Digestion is not a single pour of chemicals. It is a sequence with cues and checkpoints. The smell and sight of food can prime the stomach to secrete acid and begin enzyme release, even before swallowing. When partially digested contents reach the first part of the small intestine, sensors detect acidity and fat, then send signals that call for bile and, quote, pancreatic enzymes. Many of these enzymes are released in inactive forms, which protects the tissues that make them. They are switched on only when they reach the right place, at the right moment. Timing matters because different nutrients require different tools, and the intestine must avoid flooding itself too early. As digestion progresses, feedback signals can slow the stomach, adjust secretions, and coordinate movement so absorption has time to happen. It is an invisible performance, and it runs smoothly for most people most days. Your body turns a mixed meal into usable pieces by sending the right chemicals to the right location on schedule. Bile is a digestive fluid that helps you absorb fats. Think of fat as a stubborn substance that refuses to mix with water. To handle it, the body sends in a solution that acts like a skilled mediator. This fluid breaks large, oily droplets into countless tiny ones, which creates far more surface for digestive work to happen. Once that breakup is underway, fats can be assembled into forms that the intestinal lining can take in and move along. Without this step, even a nutritious meal can slip past with many of its richest calories still locked away. This is also why very fatty foods can feel heavy when digestion is strained. The system is trying to process something that needs special handling. When everything runs smoothly, the payoff is enormous. You gain access to essential fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins, and you can build membranes, hormones, and stored energy from what once looked impossible to mix. Your gallbladder stores bile, then squeezes it out on demand. Rather than drip this fluid non-stop, the body uses a small storage pouch that works like a timed release reservoir. Between meals, it collects and concentrates what will be needed later. Then, when food with fat begins to move into the first part of the small intestine, a chemical signal triggers a strong squeeze. The release is not random. It is matched to the meal, so the digestive stream gets a burst exactly when it can do the most good. This is why gallbladder trouble can make certain foods feel suddenly difficult. The timing is off, and the delivery is weaker or painful. It is also why some people feel discomfort after a very rich dinner. The pouch is contracting hard, doing its job with enthusiasm. Most nights, you never notice it at all. Yet it is quietly planning ahead, concentrating supplies, then delivering them with perfect urgency. The pancreas releases enzymes that dismantle proteins, fats, and starches. This organ sits like a behind-the-scenes chef, preparing powerful tools and sending them into the small intestine at the right moment. These enzymes act like molecular scissors, cutting long food molecules into pieces small enough to be absorbed. Proteins become amino acids. Starches become simple sugars. Fats become components that can be packaged and taken in. What makes this impressive is how safely it is done. Many of these enzymes are produced in inactive forms, so they do not chew through the tissues that made them. They are switched on only after they reach their destination. When the system is disrupted, people can feel it quickly. Meals may leave them drained, gassy, or unsatisfied because the raw materials never become usable parts. When it works well, the effect is invisible. A complex plate of food quietly becomes the building blocks of a living body. The liver filters nutrient-rich blood coming straight from the intestines. After absorption, the first major stop is a remarkable checkpoint. Blood from the digestive tract flows directly to this organ through a special route, which means the body can inspect what it just collected before it circulates out. Everywhere. Useful nutrients can be stored, released, or converted into forms the body needs right now. Potential toxins can be altered, so they are less harmful and easier to remove later. The liver also helps keep blood sugar steady by buffering the rush after a meal and the dip between meals. This is not a passive filter. It is an active manager of supply and safety, making quick decisions that affect energy, hormones, and chemistry across the whole body. It is also a historian. It keeps reserves for later, including fuel stored for the hours when you are asleep. In a real sense, this organ turns a meal into a controlled resource, not a chaotic flood. Your gut can sense nutrients and adjust digestion in real time. The inner lining is filled with sensory cells that behave like tasters and analysts. They detect sugars, fats, and proteins as they arrive, then send signals that shape what happens next. If a meal is rich, movement can slow so absorption has more time. If the contents are too acidic, protective responses can rise. If fat is present, signals can call for extra digestive support and change how hungry you feel later. This is one reason the same amount of calories can feel very different depending on what they are made of. The gut is not counting. It is responding. It is also why the first part of a meal can influence how you handle the rest. Early signals set the tempo for the whole performance. The result is a system that feels almost intelligent. It samples, decides, and adapts, all without needing conscious control. Digestion is not a simple pipeline. It is a responsive conversation between food and tissue. Stretch sensors in the gut help set feelings of fullness. Before nutrients even enter the bloodstream, the gut is already reporting on volume. As the stomach and intestines expand, nerve endings respond to the stretch and send messages that help shape appetite. These signals can feel like comfort when they rise slowly, and they can feel like urgency when they rise fast. They also interact with hormones that appear later, which means fullness has layers. There is the immediate sense of space being filled, and there is the slower sense of satisfaction as the body confirms that energy has arrived. This is why sipping soup can change how a meal feels, even if it is not very caloric. It adds volume, and volume matters to these senses. It is also why very dense foods can sneak past the early warning system. They may not stretch the gut as much, at least at first. Fullness is not only about calories. It is also about the physical story your gut tells your brain, moment by moment. The gut's muscle layers create mixing motions as well as forward waves. Digestion would fail if food simply slid straight through. The gut needs to knead, swirl, and fold what you eat, so enzymes and acids can touch more of it. To do this, the intestinal wall uses multiple layers of smooth muscle that pull in different directions. One pattern pushes contents forward in rolling waves. Another pattern squeezes in segments, which mixes and churns without much movement down the line. This back-and-forth motion helps break up clumps, and it brings fresh material against the lining where absorption can happen. It also helps distribute fluids, which keeps the stream from becoming too thick or too dry. When these patterns are too fast, the result can be cramping and urgency. When they are too slow, the gut can feel sluggish and uncomfortable. Yet most of the time, the rhythm is beautifully balanced. Your intestines are doing a slow, continuous dance, blending a meal into something your body can truly use. The colon's main job is water recovery, not nutrient absorption. By the time food reaches this final stretch, most calories are already claimed. What remains is a watery mixture that would be wasteful and dehydrating to lose as is. So the colon becomes a careful recycler. It pulls water back into the body, along with important salts, and it helps keep the whole system's fluid balance stable. This job is why sudden diarrhea can drain you so quickly. The recovery step is skipped, and the body loses water before it can reclaim it. The same job also explains why dehydration can harden stools. When the body needs water elsewhere, it recovers more here, and the leftovers become drier. The colon is also a place of patience. It slows the process, giving time for recovery and for other finishing touches. It is less like a trash chute and more like a final processing station, extracting the last useful drops before the body lets go. Your colon compacts leftovers into a form the body can safely release. Once water is recovered, the remaining material must be organized into something that can move, wait, and exit without harming the lining. The colon compresses and shapes the leftovers, using steady muscular movements to pack them into a manageable form. This packaging step matters for comfort and for cleanliness. Too loose, and the body cannot hold it well. Too hard, and passing it can strain and irritate. The colon also coats the material in mucus, which helps it slide and helps protect the tissue during storage. Timing is part of the design. The colon can hold what remains until the moment is safe and convenient, which is a subtle but important advantage for any animal that needs to move through the world. When this system is disrupted, the effects are immediate and very human. You feel urgency. You feel pressure. you feel relief. This is the colon doing its quiet work of shaping and scheduling a final exit. The appendix may act as a safe house for helpful microbes. For a long time, this small pouch was dismissed as useless. Then researchers began to notice something intriguing about its location and structure. It sits off the main intestinal route, which means it is less disturbed by the fast flow of contents. That makes it a potential shelter when the gut is swept clean by severe diarrhea or other disruptions. In that calmer space, certain microbes may persist and later help repopulate the larger intestine. It is a clever idea. Keep a backup community tucked away, so recovery can be faster when the main neighborhood is damaged. The appendix also contains immune tissue, which suggests it may play a role in monitoring what lives nearby. Not everyone's appendix behaves the same way, and humans can live without it. Still, the possibility is fascinating. A structure once considered leftover may actually be part of the gut's resilience plan, a small side room that protects the allies you cannot easily replace. Gut microbes can ferment fiber into short-chain fatty acids. When fiber escapes digestion in the small intestine, it arrives in the colon like a delivery for an unseen workforce. Many microbes treat those tough plant strands as fuel, and they break them down through fermentation. Instead of yielding sugar for you directly, this process produces small molecules that can be absorbed and used by your body. It is a second harvest from food you could not unlock alone. Different fibers can lead to different mixes of these fatty acids, which helps explain why two healthy diets can feel so different in the belly. This fermentation also changes the chemical environment in the colon, which can discourage some harmful newcomers and favor helpful residents. In other words, fiber is not only bulk. It is a message and a meal for the ecosystem inside you, and the products of that meal can shape your health. Those fatty acids help feed the cells lining your colon. The colon's lining is not meant to live on scraps, yet it does have a preferred fuel source. Certain short-chain fatty acids made by microbes become a local energy supply for the cells that form the barrier. That fuel supports the constant work of maintenance, including repair after minor irritation and the ongoing production of protective mucus. When this support is strong, the lining can stay resilient in the face of friction, waste, and microbial activity. When it is weaker, the barrier may become more vulnerable to inflammation and discomfort. This is one reason fiber can matter in ways that do not show up on a nutrition label. The value is not only about keeping things moving, it is also about feeding the tissue that protects you, right at the place where waste is stored. It is a strange partnership. Microbes eat what you cannot. Their leftovers become nourishment for you. Many gut bacteria thrive on fibers humans cannot digest alone. Humans lack the enzymes to break many plant fibers into absorbable sugars. For microbes, those fibers are a feast. They arrive in the colon as complex chains, and different bacterial groups bring different tools to the job. Some start the first cuts. Others finish the last steps, and this creates a kind of assembly line where one species prepares the meal for another. That teamwork can make the whole community more stable because multiple groups depend on the same steady supply. It also means your food choices can reshape who prospers inside you. A week with more beans, lentils, and whole grains can favor fiber specialists. A week without them can push the ecosystem toward other fuels. This is not about perfection. It is about what you practice feeding. Each meal can be a vote, and the winners can influence digestion, comfort, and how your immune system behaves at the gut wall. Some microbes specialize in breaking down tough plant compounds. Plants defend themselves with complicated chemicals, and some of those chemicals survive cooking and chewing. In the colon, certain microbes treat them like a puzzle worth solving. They can break down compounds in leafy greens, seeds, and colorful fruits that would otherwise pass through mostly unchanged. As they dismantle these molecules, they can release smaller pieces that may interact with your body in surprising ways. Some become antioxidants or signaling compounds. Some become pigments and scents that you later notice in the bathroom. This is part of why the same vegetable can affect two people differently. Your microbes decide how much of its hidden chemistry gets unlocked. It is also why traditional diets often pair plant-heavy meals with time and repetition. As the diet repeats, the right specialists can grow, and the body can gain access to benefits that were not available at the start. Inside you, there is a slow education in how to use plants. Gut microbes can influence how much energy you harvest from food. Calories on a label are only part of the story, because not all calories become available in the same way. Microbes can break down certain carbohydrates that would otherwise be lost, and the products can be absorbed and used as fuel. This means two people can eat similar meals and still extract different amounts of usable energy, depending on what lives in their gut. It also means changes in diet can shift how efficiently the gut ecosystem helps with extraction. Some microbial patterns are better at squeezing extra value from resistant starches and fibers. Others do less of that work. This does not mean microbes control your weight like a remote switch. It does mean they are part of the equation, along with appetite, activity, hormones, and sleep. The fascinating part is that this influence can be subtle. You might not feel it in the moment, yet over time it can shape energy balance in the background, like a hidden accountant working on every meal. Microbes can produce gases, which is why the gut can bloat. Fermentation is productive, but it is not tidy. When microbes break down food, some of the byproducts are gases that gather in the intestines. A little gas is normal, yet certain foods can produce more, especially when they supply new fuel for fermentation. That can create stretching, pressure, and the feeling of a ballooning belly. The sensation depends not only on the amount of gas, but also on how quickly it is produced and how well the gut moves it along. Some people have guts that handle gas with little drama. Others feel every bubble. Changes in routine can matter too, including stress and hurried eating, which can affect movement and swallowing of air. What makes this topic so human is how social it becomes. Bloating can feel mysterious and embarrassing, yet it is often a sign that the inner ecosystem is doing its job. The goal is not a silent gut. The goal is a gut that stays comfortable while it works. Intestinal gas is mostly swallowed air, plus microbial fermentation products. Not all gas comes from the same source. Some of it enters when you swallow, especially if you eat quickly, chew gum, sip fizzy drinks, or talk through meals. That air can travel down and collect until it is moved along or released. The rest is manufactured inside as microbes break down food and produce gases like hydrogen and carbon dioxide. In some people, other microbes use those gases and turn them into methane, which can change both the smell and the way the gut feels. This is why the same meal can lead to different results in different bodies. It is also why habits matter. Slowing down can reduce swallowed air, even if the microbial side stays the same. Most of the time, the gut handles gas through movement and absorption into the bloodstream, then exhalation through the lungs. That last part surprises many people. Some of what you call gas is literally breathed out later, after traveling from the gut into the blood. The gut produces mucus as both lubricant and protective shield. Mucus in the intestines is a living layer with two jobs that must happen at once. It helps food and waste slide along without scraping the delicate lining. And it also forms a barrier that keeps many microbes at a safer distance. This layer is constantly renewed, which matters because digestion is abrasive and the microbial world is busy. The thickness of mucus can vary by region because different sections face different challenges. In the colon, where microbes are densest, the protective role becomes especially important. Mucus also holds special sugars that some friendly microbes can use as a backup food source when the diet changes. That can be helpful in short stretches, yet if dietary fiber is scarce for long periods, some microbes may rely too heavily on the mucus itself. That is one reason long-term diet patterns can influence barrier strength. This slippery shield is not gross. It is one of the smartest defenses the body has, and it is built to work non-stop. Some gut microbes live within that mucus, right beside your cells. Near the gut wall, life becomes more selective. Only certain microbes can tolerate that environment, and some are adapted to nestle into the mucus layer where nutrients and signals are different from the MB. Open center of the intestine. Living there gives them a front-row seat to the immune system and to the chemicals released by the gut lining. In return, some of these microbes may help reinforce the barrier by encouraging mucus production and by discouraging invaders that try to get too close. It is a bit like living in the lobby of a guarded building. You are closer to the action, but you must behave. This neighborhood also makes the immune system's job harder because it must distinguish long-term residents from threats that look similar. That constant negotiation is one reason gut health can feel so sensitive. When the mucus environment changes, the border community can shift quickly, and the gut may respond with discomfort or inflammation. Right beside your cells, an entire society lives and adapts. The gut immune system learns tolerance, so food is not treated as threat. Every meal contains proteins that are foreign to your body, and the gut must decide not to panic about them. To do that, immune cells in the intestinal wall practice a special kind of learning. They sample what passes by, and they build a memory of what is safe. This creates tolerance, which is an active state, not laziness. It helps prevent constant inflammation, and it allows you to eat a wide range of foods without feeling sick. The system also learns which microbes are helpful residents, and it avoids attacking them when they behave. When this training goes wrong, the result can be allergies or chronic inflammation, because the immune system treats harmless inputs like attackers. This is why the gut is such a critical meeting place between the outside world and your inner defenses. It is not only where nutrients enter, it is where peace treaties are written. Most days, those treaties hold, and you never notice the diplomacy happening inside you. Specialized gut immune cells sample contents without opening the barrier. Along the intestinal wall, the body runs a careful inspection system that does not require tearing down its own defenses. Certain immune sentinels reach out, take tiny samples from the passing stream, then pull the information inward for analysis. They can learn what is present, which microbes are behaving, and whether any suspicious patterns are emerging. This happens in organized immune hubs, where cells compare notes and decide what response fits. Sometimes the best response is no attack at all. Sometimes it is a targeted antibody release into the gut. The beauty is in the restraint. The system can gather intelligence while keeping the wall intact, which limits collateral damage. It is like checking luggage at a border without breaking the suitcase open on the floor. Most days, you never feel it. Yet this quiet sampling helps prevent infections, shapes tolerance, and keeps the gut from becoming a battlefield every time you eat. Your gut decides which microbes are welcome and which trigger alarms. The intestine is not an open city with no rules. It uses chemical signals, antimicrobial peptides, mucus patterns, and immune recognition to shape who can settle and who gets pushed away. Some microbes earn their place by helping digest fibers, by competing with troublemakers, or by producing molecules that calm local inflammation. Others carry features that the immune system flags as risky, so they get met with stronger defenses. The decision is not fixed forever. Diet shifts can change which microbes thrive, and infections can temporarily tilt the balance. Even the gut's own secretions can change the habitat, which alters who feels at home. This is why healthy microbes is not a single list. It is a relationship between a community and its environment. The gut is constantly negotiating that relationship, keeping helpful residents close, limiting the ones that misbehave, and sounding the alarm when patterns look dangerous. Information in the gut can ripple outward through the whole body. When the intestinal immune system becomes activated, it does not always stay local. Inflammatory molecules can enter circulation, and immune cells can shift their behavior in distant tissues. That is why a gut problem can sometimes show up as fatigue, skin flares, aching joints, or a general sense that the body is on edge. The gut also influences the liver through its direct blood route, so inflammatory signals can affect metabolism and detox pathways quickly. Even the brain can feel the consequences, because inflammation can change sleep quality, pain sensitivity, and mood. This does not mean every symptom begins in the belly. It means the belly is a powerful amplifier when it is irritated. The gut is a large surface that meets the outside world daily, so it carries a lot of immune responsibility. When that system is calm, the whole body benefits. When it is stirred up, the echoes can travel far. The gut releases hormones that influence hunger and blood sugar control. After food arrives, the intestine becomes an endocrine organ in its own right, sending chemical messages into the bloodstream. Some signals turn down appetite, and some influence how the body handles incoming fuel. Others help coordinate when the liver releases stored sugar and when tissues should pull sugar out of the blood. These hormones respond to what is present, not only to how much. Fat, protein, and carbohydrate each trigger different patterns, which helps explain why some meals feel satisfying for hours, while others leave you hunting snacks soon after. The timing matters too. Early signals can slow the pace of eating by building fullness, while later signals help maintain steadier energy. This is not willpower. It is biology guiding behavior. The gut is reading the meal, then writing instructions for the rest of the body. Hunger and blood sugar are not controlled by one organ alone. They are managed through a conversation, and the gut speaks early and often. After eating, gut hormones tell the pancreas how much insulin to release. The body does not wait for blood sugar to climb too high before responding. As nutrients enter the intestine, hormones are released that prime the pancreas to prepare insulin and to release it in a measured way. This early warning system helps the body handle glucose more smoothly, so cells can absorb it without a sharp spike and crash. It also helps explain why sugar taken by mouth can produce a different insulin pattern than glucose delivered in other ways. The gut is part of the signal chain. When this system works well, it is like a well-timed handoff in a relay race. The intestine senses incoming fuel. The pancreas receives the message and responds. Tissues take up glucose and store or use it. When the system is strained, the timing can slip and blood sugar can swing more wildly. It is a reminder that metabolism is not only about the pancreas. It is also about the gut's ability to announce what is coming. The gut can slow stomach emptying to smooth spikes in blood sugar. The stomach is not allowed to dump a meal all at once. The intestine has veto power, and it uses that power to protect the body's chemistry. When nutrient-rich contents arrive, intestinal sensors can trigger signals that tighten the exit valve of the stomach and reduce the pace of release. This pacing is especially important for carbohydrate-heavy meals because a sudden flood of sugar into the small intestine would rush into the bloodstream too quickly. By slowing the handoff, the gut gives insulin time to work and gives tissues time to absorb fuel more evenly. This also shapes how you feel. A slower release can support steadier energy and longer satiety, while a faster release can leave you hungry again sooner. Certain medical conditions and surgeries can change this timing dramatically, which can make blood sugar harder to predict. A fascinating point is that digestion is not only about breaking food down. It is also about controlling the speed of delivery, so the rest of the body can keep up. The gut is a major site of drug absorption and drug breakdown. Many medicines begin their journey the same way nutrients do, by crossing the intestinal lining. Some drugs slip through easily, while others need transporters that act like selective gates. The gut can also limit absorption by pumping certain molecules back into the intestinal stream, which is one reason the same dose can affect people differently. Then there is first-pass processing. Blood from the intestines goes straight to the liver, so many drugs are altered before they ever reach the rest of the body. Even within the gut wall itself, enzymes can start breaking down drugs early, changing their strength and duration. Food can shift this too, by changing acidity, movement, and the presence of bile. That is why some medicines must be taken with meals, and others must be taken on an empty stomach. The gut is not just a doorway. It is an active filter that decides how much of a drug gets in, how fast, and in what form. Some medicines work differently depending on your gut microbes. Your microbiome is a chemistry lab that can interact with drugs in surprising ways. Certain microbes can activate a medicine into a stronger form, while others can inactivate it before your body ever gets a chance to use it. Some can transform drugs into new compounds that change side effects. Researchers have found examples where specific bacterial species influence how well a drug works, including medicines for the heart and for cancer. This means two people can take the same pill and experience different results, even with similar age and weight. It also means diet and antibiotics can change drug responses by reshaping the microbial community. The most intriguing part is how hidden this can be. You might blame the drug for being unpredictable, when the real story is that your gut microbes are part of the processing chain. This is pushing medicine toward a more personalized future, where treatment considers not only your genes, but also the ecosystem living in your intestines. Antibiotics can rapidly reshape the gut ecosystem, for better or worse. These drugs are life-saving when they stop a dangerous infection, yet they rarely hit only the intended target. Many antibiotics also damage harmless or helpful gut bacteria, and that can change digestion and comfort within days. Some people notice loose stools. Some notice bloating. Some notice cravings shifting. The ecosystem can recover, yet the rebound is not always identical to what came before. In the space left behind, resistant microbes can expand, and that can create new problems. This is why antibiotic choice and duration matter, and why doctors weigh benefits against side effects. The gut is an ecosystem with competition, and antibiotics are like a storm that knocks down trees. Afterward, the landscape regrows, but the new mix of species depends on what survived and what arrives next. The hopeful side is that recovery is often possible, especially with time and supportive diets. The caution is that antibiotics are powerful. They treat infection, and they also edit the community that helps protect you. A fecal transplant can treat recurrent infections in carefully selected cases. Sometimes a stubborn gut infection keeps returning because the normal microbial community has been flattened, often after repeated antibiotic courses. In those cases, One treatment can sound startling, but works remarkably well for many patients. A stool-based microbiome transfer introduces a healthy community into the colon, with the goal of restoring competition that keeps the harmful organism from dominating again. It is not a casual, do-it-yourself idea. Donor screening and medical oversight are essential because microbes can carry risks as well as benefits. When done properly for specific recurrent infections, this approach can break a cycle that other treatments fail to stop. The deeper lesson is how much protection comes from a stable ecosystem. You are not defended only by immune cells and acid. You are also defended by the ordinary residents that take up space, use resources, and prevent a single troublemaker from owning the whole neighborhood. In the right scenario, rebuilding that community can be the turning point. The gut microbiome begins forming at birth, then keeps changing. The first microbes that arrive are like the opening settlers of a new continent. They find niches, set up communities, and change the environment for whoever comes next. Birth, skin contact, milk, and home surroundings all contribute early arrivals, and then the ecosystem keeps evolving as foods diversify and immune defenses mature. Through childhood, it shifts quickly, and in adulthood, it can still reshape with travel, illness, and changing diets. It is not a fixed fingerprint carved in stone. It is more like a living weather system that responds to what you eat, how you sleep, and what medicines you take. Even seasons and routines can leave their marks. This constant change is not a flaw. It is adaptability. A flexible microbiome can respond to new foods and new environments, which may have helped humans survive in many different places. Early diet can help shape which microbes become long-term residents. In the early years, the gut is deciding which species get to move from temporary visitor to established neighbor. Food is a powerful filter. Different milks, different fibers, and different textures can favor different groups, and those groups can influence the chemistry of the gut in return. When a microbe thrives, it can help create conditions that suit it, which makes it easier for that same microbe to persist. This is how a pattern can form. The meals of early life do not lock a person into one future, but they can set the initial balance of the ecosystem. Later, new foods can reshape it again, yet early winners sometimes keep their foothold. This helps explain why people can respond differently to the same menu. Their gut communities were trained by different early diets, and the echoes of that training can remain for years. Breast milk contains sugars that mainly feed beneficial infant microbes. These sugars are fascinating because babies cannot digest many of them on their own. Instead, they are delivered as a kind of targeted food for specific microbes that thrive in the infant gut. When those microbes grow, they can crowd out less helpful species and create a chemical environment that supports a calmer immune response. It is a quiet strategy. Feed the allies first, and let them shape the neighborhood. This also means breast milk is not only nutrition for a baby. It is also ecosystem management. The baby receives calories, fats, proteins, and antibodies. Meanwhile, the microbes receive specialized sugars that help them establish early dominance. That early dominance can influence how the gut barrier develops and how the immune system learns to stay tolerant. It is one of the clearest examples of a body feeding two audiences at once, the child and the microbial partners that will help protect that child. Different foods favor different microbial communities in the gut. A gut ecosystem responds to diet the way a garden responds to what you water. Whole grains and legumes often favor fiber specialists that excel at fermentation. High-fat meals can shift bile patterns, which changes which microbes feel comfortable. Protein-heavy diets can increase different breakdown products, which can select for different groups again. Even spices and polyphenols from berries or tea can shape the community, because some microbes can use those compounds while others cannot. This means a menu is not only feeding you, it is also choosing which microbial workers get hired. The changes can happen surprisingly fast, sometimes within days, which is why travel eating can feel like an internal reboot. It is also why variety matters. A wider range of plant foods can support a wider range of microbial skills, which can make the ecosystem more resilient when life changes your routine. Fermented foods can deliver live microbes and useful metabolites. When you eat yogurt, kefir, kimchi, or miso, you are tasting the work of microbes that already transformed the food before you arrived. Some of those microbes may survive the journey through the stomach and reach the intestines alive. Even when they do not stay long-term, they can still interact with the gut lining and with resident microbes. Fermentation also produces compounds that can matter even if the microbes do not take up residence. Acids, peptides, and altered sugars can change how the gut environment behaves and how your body responds to the meal. That is why fermented foods can feel different from the same ingredients cooked and eaten fresh. They arrive pre-processed by another living system. For many cultures, fermentation began as preservation. Over time, it also became a way to change texture, flavor, and digestibility. When you eat fermented foods, you are not only eating ingredients. You are eating a history of microbial chemistry. Fiber-rich diets often support more diverse gut ecosystems. Fiber is not one substance. It is a whole family of plant structures, and each type can feed different microbes. When many fibers are present, more microbial specialists can find a role, which can increase diversity. Diversity matters because it can act like redundancy in a workforce. If one group struggles, another can pick up some of the tasks. That can make the ecosystem steadier during stress, travel, or minor illness. A fiber-rich pattern can also encourage a steadier fermentation profile, which may support comfort for many people once the gut adapts. The key is that diversity is built by variety over time. A single high-fiber meal is not a miracle. Repeated exposure is more like training. The microbes that can use those fibers become better represented, and the community develops more ways to process plant material. In that sense, fiber supports resilience, not perfection. Ultra-processed diets can reduce microbial diversity in some studies. Highly processed foods can be convenient and tasty, yet they often arrive with less intact plant structure and fewer diverse fibers for microbes to chew on. Some also contain emulsifiers, sweeteners, or additives that may alter the gut environment in ways that disadvantage certain microbes. In research, diets that are low in varied plant material can be linked with lower microbial diversity, which may reduce the ecosystem's flexibility. This does not mean every packaged food is harmful, and it does not mean one smack rewrites your gut. It means patterns matter. When the microbial community receives a narrower menu for long stretches, fewer specialists can thrive. The ecosystem becomes more like a town with only one industry. It can still function, yet it may be less stable when conditions change. The hopeful side is that the microbiome can respond when the diet changes. Adding variety can invite new microbes back or help rare ones expand again. Stress can change gut movement and alter microbial balance. When you feel threatened or overloaded, the body shifts into a protective mode, and digestion is rarely the top priority. Stress hormones can change how fast the gut moves, how much fluid it secretes, and how sensitive the nerves become. For some people, stress speeds things up and creates urgency. For others, it slows things down. and creates heaviness. These changes also affect microbes because movement and secretions influence which species get steady resources and which get swept away. Stress can even change eating habits, which feeds back into the ecosystem. This is why the gut can feel like an emotional instrument. It is responding to real signals, not imaginary ones. Over time, repeated stress can keep the gut in a more reactive state, which may make it easier for discomfort to flare. The interesting part is that the gut and the brain can reinforce each other. A stressed mind can upset the belly, and an upset belly can increase the sense of stress. Sleep disruption can shift gut hormones that influence appetite. When sleep is short or fragmented, the body's daily rhythms can lose their steady timing, and the gut is part of that rhythm. Appetite-related signals can change, which may make hunger feel louder and satisfaction feel quieter. Food choices can shift toward quick energy, and that can influence digestion the next day. The gut also coordinates timing, including when the stomach empties and when certain hormones rise after meals. When sleep is disrupted, those signals can become less predictable, and that can affect cravings and energy swings. This is not a moral failure. It is physiology. The body is trying to cope with tiredness by seeking fuel. Over time, irregular sleep patterns can also influence which microbes thrive, because feeding times and stress hormones change the habitat. A stable sleep routine is not only rest for the brain. It is a way to keep the gut's messaging system running on a steadier schedule, which can support appetite control without constant effort. The gut and the brain share many of the same chemical messengers. It is surprising to realize that the molecules used for mood and motivation also show up in digestion. The gut uses many of the same signaling chemicals to coordinate movement, sensation, and secretion. That shared language helps explain why emotions can have physical sensations in the belly, and why digestive trouble can color how a day feels. Signals do not travel only one direction. The brain can change gut function through stress pathways and autonomic nerves. The gut can influence the brain through sensory nerves, hormones, and immune signals. Even the microbes can contribute molecules that the body interprets as messages. This shared chemistry turns the gut into a kind of second stage for experiences that seem purely mental. A tense meeting can tighten the stomach. A calm evening can restore appetite. The gut is not thinking, yet it is communicating in the same chemical dialect as the brain. That makes the connection feel personal, because in a way it is. The vagus nerve carries gut signals straight into brainstem circuits. This nerve is a direct line from your organs to the parts of the brain that manage basic survival rhythms. It listens to stretch, movement, and chemical changes in the digestive tract, then carries that information upward without needing you to notice. When your stomach is full, it can help turn down appetite. When the gut is irritated, it can help create nausea and loss of interest in food. It even participates in reflexes that regulate heart rate and breathing, which is why a sudden gut sensation can feel like it reaches your whole body at once. Researchers also study how vagus signaling relates to stress recovery, because the same pathway links digestion with calm and alertness. It is not poetic when people say they have a gut feeling. It is anatomy. The body has a built-in messenger that reports from deep inside you, minute by minute. Gut microbes can make compounds that affect anxiety like behaviors in animals. In animal studies, changing the microbiome can change behavior in ways that resemble shifts in anxiety. Some microbes produce small molecules that interact with the nervous system through immune signals, hormone pathways, and nerve communication. Others influence how the body handles stress by altering inflammation or by changing the availability of certain nutrients used to build brain chemicals. The most striking experiments involve transferring microbes between animals and watching behavior shift, along with the microbial community. This does not mean microbes create personality like a puppet master. It does suggest the brain is listening to chemical cues that can come from the gut. Scientists are now exploring which compounds matter most and which pathways carry the message. The takeaway is wonderfully strange. You have microscopic residents that make chemicals, and those chemicals can influence the whole body's state. In the lab, the gut can nudge the mind without a single thought being involved. The gut can influence inflammation that reaches the brain's protective barriers. The brain is shielded by tightly controlled barriers that limit what can enter. Even so, inflammatory signals from the body can influence how those barriers behave. When the gut is inflamed, immune molecules can rise in the bloodstream and create a wider alert state. This can affect sleep, energy, and the sense of mental sharpness, even when there is no direct infection in the brain. The gut also sends blood to the liver first, which means gut-derived inflammation can quickly shape whole body chemistry that the brain must respond to. Researchers are studying how long-term gut inflammation might contribute to brain fog and mood changes in some people. This is not a simple one-cause story. It is a network story. The gut, the immune system, and the brain all talk at once. When the gut is calm, the brain often gets a quieter internal environment. When the gut is stirred, the brain can feel the weather change. Some people feel nausea from fear because the gut reacts instantly. Fear is not only a thought. It is a body program that prepares you to run, hide, or fight. Digestion is expensive and slow, so the body can downshift it fast. Blood flow can be redirected toward muscles. Gut movement can change. Secretions can shift. The result can be a sudden wave of queasiness, even when the stomach is empty. This reaction has deep logic. If danger is near, eating is not the priority, and vomiting can even reduce the burden of carrying a heavy meal while escaping. The gut is also rich with sensory nerves, so any rapid change in motion or tension can feel dramatic. For some people, the nausea is the first clue that they are anxious, because the gut speaks before the mind fully names the emotion. That does not mean it is imaginary. It means the body's alarm system includes the digestive tract, and it is quick to respond. Motion sickness starts in the brain, but the gut delivers the misery. This discomfort often begins with a sensory argument. Your eyes may report movement, while inner ear balance sensors report something different. The brain struggles to reconcile the mismatch, and it responds with a protective pattern that includes nausea. The gut then becomes the stage where that pattern plays out. Movement can slow or become irregular. The stomach can increase its sensitivity to stretch. Nausea rises, and sweating and pallor often follow. Some scientists think this response evolved as a defense against poisoning, because certain toxins can create sensory confusion. If the brain interprets the mismatch as a possible sign of poisoning, it may trigger vomiting as a precaution. That theory is still debated, yet it fits the drama of the response. Your gut is doing what it does best when it suspects danger. It is trying to empty the stomach and reset the system. The cause may be in the brain, but the sensation is unmistakably in the belly. Diarrhea is the gut's emergency flush when it senses danger. When the intestines detect certain microbes or toxins, the goal can shift from careful absorption to rapid expulsion. The gut can pull water into the intestinal stream, speed up movement, and reduce the time contents spent in the colon. This makes it harder for invaders to attach and multiply, and it can sweep out irritants before they do more harm. It is an unpleasant strategy, yet it can be protective in the short term. The cost is dehydration and loss of salts, which is why severe diarrhea can become dangerous, especially for children and older adults. The experience can feel sudden because it is driven by powerful signaling. Immune sensors detect a threat. Chemical messengers rise. Muscle contractions change tempo. The gut chooses speed over efficiency. It is the body prioritizing survival over comfort. When you understand it that way, the misery has a grim purpose. The gut is trying to protect you by clearing the route. Constipation can happen when gut motility slows for many reasons. The intestines rely on steady, coordinated waves to move contents forward. When that rhythm slows, the colon has more time to pull water out, and stools can become harder and more difficult to pass. Many factors can contribute. Low fluid intake can make the contents drier. Changes in routine can disrupt timing. Certain medicines can slow movement. Ignoring the urge to go can also matter, because the colon keeps holding and keeps reclaiming water. For some people, pelvic floor coordination plays a role, and the exit mechanism does not relax smoothly. The uncomfortable part is that constipation can create a feedback loop. The longer waist stays, the more pressure and bloating can build, which can make the gut feel less willing to move. Relief often requires more than one fix, because the cause is rarely one thing. The story is about movement, water, and timing, all interacting inside a living tube. The gut's rhythm can be disrupted by dehydration and low fiber. Fiber adds structure to the intestinal contents, and it can help hold water in a way that supports smoother movement. When fiber is low, stools can be smaller and harder to propel, especially if fluid intake is also low. Dehydration adds another challenge, because the body defends its water supply by reclaiming more in the colon. The result can be slow transit and discomfort. Over time, the gut can become less responsive to its normal cues, because there is less stretch from bulk and less lubrication from water. This can make the system feel stubborn, even when you want it to cooperate. The fascinating part is how physical this is. Digestion is chemistry, but it is also mechanics. The gut needs something to grip and something that can slide. Fiber provides form. Water provides flow. When both are missing, the intestine is trying to move a dry, compact load through a winding passage. Restoring rhythm often begins with restoring the materials that rhythm depends on. The gut can create powerful cramps by contracting smooth muscle strongly. Intestinal muscle is built for steady work, yet it can also clamp down with surprising force. Cramps often happen when the gut is trying to move something along quickly, or when it is reacting to irritation, gas, or inflammation. Smooth muscle contracts in waves, and when those waves become intense or poorly coordinated, the sensation can turn sharp. The nerves that report gut pain can be diffuse, which is why cramps can feel like a broad ache rather than a pinpoint spot. Trapped gas can make it worse, because stretching adds pressure to an already active muscle wall. Some cramps are protective, because pushing can help clear a threat. Others are simply a sign of a system struggling to coordinate. The feeling can be dramatic, yet the cause can be as small as a loop of bowel contracting at the wrong time. Your intestines are always in motion. When that motion becomes forceful, you feel the work that is usually hidden. The colon can hold surprisingly large volumes before you feel urgency. The lower gut is designed to store, not just to pass things through. The colon slowly moves and compacts waste, then the rectum acts as the final holding chamber. It can stretch to accommodate what arrives, and sensory nerves monitor that stretch to decide when it is time to signal urgency. This system is practical. It allows you to function through the day instead of needing a bathroom the moment digestion finishes. The sensation of urgency usually appears when stretch reaches a threshold, or when the contents are looser and harder to contain. The body can also suppress the urge for a while by tightening sphincter muscles and reducing rectal contractions, though that control is not endless. Over time, habits can influence sensitivity. Regular timing can make signals predictable. Ignoring signals repeatedly can change how strongly they are felt. It is a storage system with both flexibility and limits, and it is part of what makes human life manageable outside a bathroom. Your gut absorbs iron and calcium in tightly regulated ways. These minerals may look like simple ingredients, yet the body treats them like valuables that must be counted carefully. In the small intestine, specialized transport systems decide how much iron is taken in, and that decision shifts with your needs. If stores are low, absorption can rise. If stores are high, the gate can narrow. Calcium has its own rules. It can be absorbed through active pathways that depend on vitamin D, and also through passive movement when plenty is present. Acidity, meal composition, and even inflammation can change how well these routes work. That is why the same bowl of food can deliver different results in different bodies. It is also why deficiency can develop quietly. The gut is not only absorbing. It is negotiating supply, balancing safety against shortage, and responding to signals from blood and bone. Vitamin B12 absorption depends on a stomach-made helper protein. This vitamin is precious, and the body guards it with a surprisingly complex handoff. In the stomach, B12 is first freed from food by digestion. Then it must latch onto a helper made by stomach lining cells. That helper is called intrinsic factor, and without it, absorption later in the small intestine becomes very difficult. Farther down, receptors recognize the B12 and intrinsic factor pair and pull it into the body like a keyed lock. This is why B12 deficiency can appear even in people who eat plenty of animal products. If stomach acid is low, if intrinsic factor is reduced, or if the final absorption site is damaged, the chain breaks. The consequence can be slow and sneaky, because B12 is needed for healthy blood cells and nerve function. The story is a reminder that nutrition is not only what you eat, it is also whether your gut can complete the delivery. Your gut needs stomach acid to unlock some minerals from food. A meal is not only nutrients sitting on a plate. Many nutrients are bound inside proteins and plant structures, and they need to be released before the intestine can absorb them. Stomach acid helps by loosening those bonds and by creating a chemical environment that keeps certain minerals in more absorbable forms. That matters for minerals like iron, which can be easier to take in when it stays dissolved. It can also matter for calcium and magnesium, especially when food is dense and complex. When acid levels are reduced, some people notice more bloating and changes in digestion. Another consequence can be that nutrient extraction becomes less efficient over time. This does not mean acid is always good in excess. It means the stomach's chemistry has a purpose beyond breaking down dinner. It prepares nutrients for the next stage, and it helps the small intestine meet them in a usable state. Lactose intolerance happens when lactase levels fall after childhood in many people. Lactose is the main sugar in milk, and digesting it requires an enzyme called lactase that sits on the small intestine's surface. Many humans make less lactase as they grow older, which means lactose can slip through undigested. When that happens, it reaches the colon, where microbes treat it as an unexpected feast. Fermentation follows, and the results can include gas, cramps, and loose stools. The timing can be telling. Symptoms often appear hours after dairy, not immediately, because the lactose has to travel to the microbial zone first. What surprises many people is that lactose intolerance is not the same as a milk allergy. It is not an immune attack. It is an enzyme shortage. It also comes in degrees. Some people handle yogurt or hard cheese well because lactose is lower, or because the food moves differently through the gut. The gut is not being dramatic. It is simply responding to a sugar that arrived without the right key. Celiac disease is an immune attack triggered by gluten in susceptible people. In this condition, gluten exposure can set off an immune reaction that targets the small intestine itself. The result is not a simple upset stomach. The immune system damages the intestinal surface where absorption happens, which can lead to nutrient deficiencies, fatigue, and a wide range of symptoms beyond their power. Digestion. Some people have obvious stomach trouble. Others have subtle signs like anemia, poor growth, or skin changes. This variety can make it hard to recognize. What makes celiac disease especially striking is that the trigger is common and the body's response is misdirected. Gluten is a food protein, yet the immune system treats it like a threat worth collateral damage. Diagnosis matters because the treatment is not a pill. It is strict avoidance, so the intestine can heal and the immune attack can quiet down. It is one of the clearest examples of how the gut is a meeting point between food and immunity, and how that meeting can sometimes go wrong. Inflammatory bowel diseases involve misdirected immune responses in the gut. Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis are different conditions, yet both involve chronic inflammation in the digestive tract. Instead of switching off after a threat passes, the immune system stays active, injuring tissue and creating cycles of flare and repair. Symptoms can include abdominal pain, diarrhea, blood in stool, and weight loss. Many people also feel effects far from the gut, including fatigue and joint aches, because long-term inflammation changes the whole body's chemistry. These diseases are not caused by one germ or one food. They reflect a complex interaction among genes, immune regulation, the microbiome, and the gut barrier. Treatments often aim to calm immune activity, heal tissue, and reduce complications. What makes these illnesses so fascinating and so challenging is that the gut is both battleground and victim. The body is trying to defend itself, yet the defense becomes a source of harm. Understanding the paradox is at the heart of modern research and care. Food poisoning toxins can hijack gut cells and force rapid fluid loss. Some microbes do not need to invade deeply to cause misery. Their toxins can be enough. Certain toxins latch onto the gut lining and trigger signals that open floodgates, pulling water and salts into the intestinal stream. The goal, from the body's perspective, is to flush the threat away. The result is sudden, watery diarrhea that can feel like a switch flipped. Other toxins damage the surface cells directly, which can lead to inflammation and more lasting discomfort. Timing can offer clues about the culprit, because some toxins act fast and others require time for microbes to multiply. The most important danger is dehydration, which is why oral rehydration with the right balance of salts and sugar can be life-saving. It is strange to realize how quickly the gut can change from careful absorber to emergency pump. The lining is not passive. It is wired to respond, and toxins are expert at pulling its strings. Some gut infections spread because spores survive harsh stomach conditions. Most microbes struggle to make it through the stomach's acidity, yet some bacteria have a backup plan. They form spores, tough, dormant capsules that can resist heat, dryness, and chemical attack. In that armored state, they can survive the journey through the stomach and wake up later in the intestines. This survival trick helps certain infections spread in hospitals and shared spaces, because spores can linger on surfaces and resist ordinary cleaning. Once inside the gut, the spores can germinate when conditions are right, and then the active bacteria can cause illness, especially if normal gut microbes have been reduced by antibiotics. This is one reason hand hygiene and proper disinfection matter so much in medical settings. Spores are not alive in the usual sense while they travel. They are more like seeds waiting for a season. The unsettling part is how patient they can be. The gut is warm and nutrient-rich, and for a spore, it can be the perfect place to begin again. The gut can form ulcers when defenses fail against acid and inflammation. An ulcer is not just a sore spot. It is a break in the protective lining that exposes deeper tissue to harsh digestive conditions. In the stomach or upper small intestine, the balance depends on defenses like mucus, blood flow, and rapid cell repair. When that balance is disrupted, acid and digestive enzymes can irritate the tissue and prevent healing. Infection with certain bacteria can weaken defenses, and anti-inflammatory pain medicines can also raise risk by reducing protective signals. The pain can burn, yet some ulcers stay silent until they bleed. That is why black stools, vomiting blood, or sudden weakness can be warning signs that need urgent care. Treatment often focuses on reducing acid, clearing infection when present, and letting the lining rebuild. The story is a reminder that digestion involves controlled danger. Acid is useful, but it must be kept in its place. When barriers fail, the body feels how sharp its own chemistry can be. The gut's pain signals are often vague and hard to pinpoint. The gut senses stretch, pressure, and chemical irritation. Well, yet it does not map pain the way skin does. A cut on a finger feels precise. A problem in the intestines can feel like a drifting ache, a cramp that moves, or discomfort that seems to come from everywhere at once. This happens because many gut nerves are tuned to general states, not fine location. The brain also receives gut signals through pathways that overlap with signals from other internal organs, which can blur the picture further. That is why gallbladder issues can feel like upper belly pain, and why appendicitis can start near the center before it localizes. Stress can amplify gut pain too, because the nervous system becomes more alert and the gut becomes more sensitive to normal sensations. The vagueness is frustrating, yet it is part of how the system is built. The gut's job is movement and absorption, not detailed reporting. When it hurts, it is often saying one simple thing: something is wrong, and it needs attention. Your gut has a built-in clock that follows daily light and meal timing. Inside the digestive tract, many cells behave as if they own a schedule. They anticipate patterns, like when food usually arrives and when the body tends to rest. That timing can influence how strongly the gut contracts, how quickly it empties, and how ready it is to absorb nutrients. It also affects how the gut lining repairs itself, which is part of why regular routines can feel calming for digestion. When meals happen at predictable times, the gut can prepare secretions and movement in advance. When timing becomes chaotic, the system may feel out of step, even if the food itself is familiar. This clock does not replace the brain's master clock. It works alongside it, using cues like light, hormones, and feeding times. It is a reminder that digestion is not only chemistry. It is also timing, and the body likes rhythm. Late-night eating can desynchronize gut rhythms in some research. When you eat late, you are asking the gut to do its busiest work. During hours, it often expects repair and recovery. In studies, shifting food to later times can disrupt normal daily patterns in metabolism and digestive signaling. The gut may still do the job, yet the timing can create a mismatch between digestion and the hormones that manage blood sugar, appetite, and sleep readiness. Some people notice reflux more at night, partly because lying down changes how contents sit in the stomach. Others notice lighter sleep after heavy late meals, as the body stays active when it would rather downshift. This does not mean a late snack ruins everything. It means the gut has a rhythm, and repeated late eating can push it into a new pattern that may feel less comfortable for some bodies. Your dinner time can act like a setting on an internal clock, nudging digestion toward day mode or night mode. The gut changes blood flow after meals to handle absorption. After you eat, the body quietly reroutes resources. Blood flow to the digestive organs increases, delivering oxygen and carrying away nutrients as they cross into the body. This shift supports the work of absorption and the activity of the intestinal lining, which is moving molecules through transporters and packaging fats for delivery. You can sometimes feel this change indirectly. A large meal can make you sleepy or less interested in intense activity because more circulation and attention are directed inward. The gut is also sending signals that coordinate this response, so blood arrives where it is most useful. In people with certain heart or circulation problems, this post-meal shift can feel more dramatic. In most people, it is subtle, yet it is constant. Every meal triggers a temporary change in circulation, like opening extra lanes on a highway during rush hour. The gut does not just process food. It calls for the body's support to move that food into you. During exercise, blood is diverted away from the gut toward muscles. When you sprint, climb, or push through a hard workout, the body makes a clear choice. It sends more blood to muscles and skin so you can move and cool down. The gut, which usually enjoys a generous supply after meals, receives less in that moment. Digestion slows, and the lining can become more sensitive because it has fewer resources for its normal work. This is one reason athletes plan meals carefully. A heavy meal before intense exercise can sit awkwardly because the gut is asked to digest while its blood supply is reduced. The body is not being uncooperative. It is prioritizing movement, which is a survival strategy. In the wild, a creature that could outrun danger mattered more than one that could digest lunch perfectly. Even today, the same ancient logic shows up as side stitches, nausea, or a sudden need for the bathroom during intense effort. Your workout is not only a muscle event. It is a whole body redistribution of resources. That shift is one reason hard workouts can upset digestion. Picture the gut as a busy workplace that relies on steady power. During intense exercise, the power is partly rerouted. With less blood flow, digestion may slow, and the intestine may absorb differently for a while. Meanwhile, bouncing motion and increased breathing can add mechanical stress, especially for runners. The nervous system is also in a more activated state, which can change gut movement patterns and heighten sensitivity. Some people get cramps. Some get nausea. Some feel an urgent need to go, even if they ate hours earlier. Hydration and heat matter too, because dehydration reduces available fluid for the digestive system, and overheating adds another demand for circulation at the skin. The practical lesson is that the gut and muscles compete for support during hard effort. Many athletes learn to train the gut alongside the legs by experimenting with timing, fluids, and what types of food sit well. It is not weakness. It is physiology showing its priorities. The gut's microbes can change during travel, especially with new foods. When you travel, your gut experiences a sudden shift in inputs. Meals change, spices change, water sources change, sleep changes, and stress can rise. Microbes respond quickly to these changes because their food supply and environment are different. A diet higher in unfamiliar fibers may encourage certain species to expand. A diet heavier in refined carbs may favor others. Even short trips can nudge the balance, which may show up as bloating, altered stool patterns, or changes in comfort. Some shifts are harmless and temporary. Others make you feel off until your routine returns. The fascinating part is how fast the ecosystem reacts, like a city responding to new shipments and new weather. Travel is one of the clearest demonstrations that your microbiome is not fixed. It is a living community that tracks your life. A new place means new inputs, and the gut notices. Sometimes it adapts smoothly. Sometimes it complains while it learns the new menu. Travelers' diarrhea often reflects unfamiliar microbes and stressed gut defenses. In many destinations, the microbes in food and water are different from what your body is used to. Even when the locals are fine, your gut may not have the same immune familiarity, and your resident microbes may not compete as effectively against newcomers. Add stress, heat, dehydration, and disrupted sleep, and the gut's defenses can feel stretched. The result can be diarrhea that starts suddenly, because the gut responds by flushing and reducing absorption. This reaction can protect you by clearing the threat quickly, yet it can also leave you depleted. Safe drinking water, careful food choices, and hand hygiene matter. And so does rehydration when symptoms hit. The goal is to replace water and salts, because the biggest danger is fluid loss, not embarrassment. There is also a strange comfort in the biology. Your gut is not failing. It is reacting to a new microbial environment with the tools it has, which is speed and clearance. For a traveler, that is an unpleasant lesson in ecology. The gut can influence body odor through microbial breakdown products. Body odor is not only about sweat. It is also about what your microbes make from what you eat, and how those compounds leave the body. In the intestines, microbes break down proteins, plant chemicals, and sulfur-containing compounds into smaller molecules. Some of those molecules are absorbed and later released in breath, urine, or sweat. That is one reason garlic, onions, and certain spices can linger on you long after the meal is over. The scent is chemistry traveling through the body. Even the microbiome on your skin joins the story, because it can transform sweat into stronger smelling compounds. The gut's role is upstream. It decides which molecules get produced and which enter circulation. This connection can feel surprising, yet it makes sense. Your body is a closed loop of transport, and molecules move between compartments. What you eat becomes part of you, and sometimes it announces itself. Odor is not always a sign of poor hygiene. It can be a signature of diet, metabolism, and microbial activity working together. Some microbes convert dietary compounds into molecules your kidneys must clear. The gut is a chemical workshop, and not every product is useful. Some microbial conversions create compounds that the body treats as waste, so they must be filtered out by the kidneys. This is part of why the same food can have different effects in different people. If one person's microbes convert a compound into a benign form, it may pass without notice. If another person's microbes convert it into something more reactive, the body may need to process and clear it carefully. These pathways are a major focus of research because they connect diet, microbiome, and long-term health risks. The interesting point is that the kidneys are not acting alone. They are handling the downstream consequences of what happens in the gut. It is a relay. Food enters, microbes transform, the intestine absorbs, the liver modifies, and the kidneys clear. When people talk about the body as a system, this is what they mean. One organ's chemistry becomes another organ's workload, and the gut often starts the chain. The gut can recycle bile acids, saving the body significant resources. Bile acids are costly to make, and the body prefers not to waste them. After they help handle fats in the small intestine, most are reabsorbed in the lower small intestine and returned to the liver through a dedicated circulation loop. The liver can then reuse them, sending them back out again with the next meal. This recycling keeps digestion efficient, and it reduces how much the liver must synthesize from scratch. It also creates a feedback system. If fewer bile acids return, the liver makes more. If many return, production can slow. Microbes can influence this loop by transforming bile acids, which can change how easily they are reabsorbed and what signals they send. Problems in this recycling pathway can cause diarrhea or fat malabsorption because the balance of bile acids in the gut shifts. What looks like a simple digestive fluid is part of a resource economy, circulating again and again. Your gut is not just consuming. It is conserving, running a reuse system that quietly supports every rich meal. Bile acids also act like signals that shape metabolism and immunity. They begin as helpers for digesting fat, yet they also behave like messengers that tell the body what kind of meal just arrived. When bile acids reach the intestine, they can activate receptors in gut cells, and those receptors send instructions that influence how the liver handles fats and sugars. They also influence how much bile is made next, which creates a feedback loop that keeps the system efficient. The immune system listens too. Bile acid signaling can nudge inflammatory responses up or down, depending on context and balance. This means a substance designed for digestion also helps coordinate whole body strategy after eating. It is like discovering that a delivery truck is also carrying news dispatches. The surprising part is how broad the reach can be. A signal that starts in the gut can influence appetite, energy use, and immune readiness, all from the chemistry of what you just digested. Your gut microbes can modify bile acids into new chemical messengers. Once bile acids enter the intestine, they are not finished products. Microbes can alter them by trimming parts, reshaping them, or changing how they dissolve. Those changes can create new versions that interact differently with receptors in the gut and liver. Some modified bile acids may be reabsorbed and travel through the body, carrying messages that are partly microbial in origin. This is a remarkable form of collaboration. Your liver makes the starting material. Your microbes edit it. Your cells respond to the edited signal. The balance matters because the mix of bile acids can influence digestion comfort, gut barrier behavior, and immune tone. Changes in diet, antibiotics, or travel can shift which microbial editors are present, and that can change the message being sent. It is not only that microbes help break down food, they also rewrite chemical language the body uses to regulate itself, and that makes the gut feel like a true command center. The gut is a major source of immune memory against everyday microbes. Most of the microbes you meet are not traumatic enemies. They are ordinary visitors from food, water, hands, and air. The gut is where the immune system practices remembering them because the gut sees an enormous variety every day. Immune cells in intestinal tissues can learn patterns, store what they have seen, and respond faster the next time. This memory helps prevent repeated minor exposures from becoming repeated illnesses. It also helps the immune system respond with precision rather than panic. A useful response might be a targeted antibody released into the gut, not a whole body inflammatory storm. This is one reason the gut is such an important training ground. It is constantly exposed, yet it must stay functional. Over time, the immune system builds a library of familiar microbial signatures, and that library helps keep you steady in a world full of microscopic life. The gut teaches the body to ignore harmless pollen like proteins in food. Every bite contains proteins that are not you, and the immune system must learn that eating is not an emergency. In the gut, immune cells are exposed to food proteins in a context designed to promote calm. The lining presents these molecules in ways that encourage tolerance, and regulatory immune cells help reinforce a peaceful response. This training is practical. Without it, the body would treat meals like infections, and daily life would be full of information. The process is also personal. Different diets expose the immune system to different proteins, and early experiences can shape what feels familiar later. The gut barrier matters too, because a well-managed barrier can present food proteins in a controlled way, rather than as a chaotic leak. When the lesson goes well, you can eat a wide range of foods without a second thought. The immune system does not become careless. It becomes wise, choosing restraint when restraint is the safest option. Food allergies can form when this tolerance training breaks down. An allergy is not the immune system being strong. It is the immune system misreading a harmless protein as a serious threat. When tolerance fails, the body can build a hair trigger response that releases histamine and other chemicals at the wrong time. That can lead to hives, swelling, vomiting, wheezing, or dangerous drops in blood pressure. The reasons tolerance breaks are complex. Genetics can play a role. Barrier disruption can play a role. Timing of exposures can matter, and so can other illnesses that shift immune behavior. What makes food allergy especially unsettling is how fast it can appear. A food that once seemed fine can suddenly become risky. Yet there is also hope in the science. Researchers study ways to retrain the immune system, including carefully supervised exposure strategies for certain allergies. The deeper point is that the gut is not only where food enters. It is where immune decisions about food are made, and sometimes those decisions go tragically wrong. The gut can create a fever-like immune response without any fever. When the immune system senses a possible threat in the gut, it can trigger the same kind of whole-body shift that happens during infection. You might feel tired, foggy, or achy. Appetite can drop, and the world can feel heavier. Yet your temperature may remain normal. This happens because immune signaling molecules can change behavior and energy use without requiring a true fever. The body is reallocating resources, prioritizing defense and repair. In the gut, this response can be triggered by infections, toxins, or inflammation that the immune system interprets as urgent. It is a reminder that sickness is not only about germs. It is also about the body's response to perceived danger. The gut has enough immune power to influence how you feel from head to toe, even when the problem is local. When people say they feel unwell in a way they cannot explain, the gut immune system is one place that can be quietly running the show. The gut is where many cancers are prevented by constant repair. The gut lining lives a rough life. It faces acids, enzymes, friction, and endless microbial contact. To stay safe, it must renew itself constantly, replacing old cells and repairing tiny injuries before they become lasting damage. This repair is also a form of cancer prevention. Each time a cell divides, there is a chance for mistakes in DNA. The body uses checkpoints and cleanup systems to catch those mistakes and remove cells that look suspicious. In the gut, those systems are always busy because turnover is so high. Inflammation can make the job harder because chronic irritation can increase cell division and create a more hostile environment for accurate repair. That is why long-term gut inflammation is taken seriously in medicine. The hopeful part is that the gut is built for resilience. It does not rely on one defense. It relies on renewal, surveillance, and barriers working together hour after hour to keep normal growth from tipping into dangerous growth. Colon cancer screening works because early changes can be detected and removed. Many cancers begin slowly, with small growths that may not cause pain or obvious symptoms. In the colon, some of these growths can be found before they become cancer, and in many cases, they can be removed during screening. That is a rare advantage in medicine. Instead of waiting for a late warning sign, screening can interrupt the story early. Different screening methods look for different clues. Some exams look directly inside the colon. Others look for hidden markers in stool that suggest bleeding or abnormal cells. The details of what is recommended depend on age, risk factors, and medical guidance. The central idea is powerful. The colon is accessible, and early warning signs can be caught in time. This turns prevention into something practical, not abstract. It is also why people who feel perfectly fine are still encouraged to screen at appropriate ages. In the colon, silence does not always mean safety, and early action can change outcomes dramatically. The gut can bleed invisibly, which is why stool testing can matter. Not all bleeding is dramatic. In the digestive tract, small amounts of blood can mix into stool without changing its appearance in an obvious way. That hidden loss might come from irritated tissue, ulcers, hemorrhoids, inflammation, or early growths that are fragile and prone to tiny leaks. Because the blood is not always visible, tests can look for it chemically, and that can provide an early signal that something needs attention. This does not mean a positive result equals cancer. It means the gut is giving a quiet clue, and the clue deserves follow-up. Invisible bleeding can also matter over time because it can contribute to iron deficiency, especially when it continues unnoticed. The gut is a busy, delicate surface, so small injuries can happen. The important part is not panic. It is awareness. Stool testing is one way of listening to the gut when it speaks softly, before it is forced to shout. Your gut microbes leave chemical fingerprints that scientists can measure. Even when you cannot see them, microbes announce themselves through what they produce. As they break down fibers, proteins, and plant compounds, they release a distinctive mix of small molecules. Scientists can measure many of these molecules in stool, breath, and blood using sensitive lab techniques. The pattern can reveal clues about diet, microbial diversity, and metabolic activity. It can even hint at how the gut ecosystem might be influencing inflammation or drug response. This is one reason microbiome research is so exciting. It is not only about naming species. It is about mapping what those species are doing. Two people might have different microbes that perform similar jobs, and the chemical fingerprint can capture that functional story. Researchers also track how fingerprints change after diet shifts, antibiotics, or illness, which helps them see how quickly the ecosystem responds. In a sense, the gut leaves a trail of evidence, and modern science is learning to read it like a quiet signature written in chemistry. Scientists can map gut microbes by reading their genetic barcodes. A tiny sample can hold a crowded universe, and modern sequencing lets researchers take a census without needing to grow microbes in a dish. They extract bits of genetic material, then look for signature sequences that act like barcodes. Some approaches read one common gene to identify broad groups. Other approaches read far more DNA to see species, pathways, and sometimes even strain-level differences. The result is a map of who is present and often what they might be capable of doing. It is like walking into a city at night and seeing which neighborhoods have lights on and which factories are running. This has transformed gut science because many gut residents are hard to culture. With barcodes, scientists can track how communities shift after a diet change, an illness, or a medication. The gut becomes measurable, not mysterious. The gut microbiome is so personal, it can resemble a biological signature. Two people can share a meal, share a home, even share genetics, and still carry noticeably different microbial communities. Your personal mix reflects a long history of exposures, habits, and environments. It is shaped by what you eat, what you have been sick with, which medicines you have taken, and where you have traveled. Over time, a stable core can emerge, with certain microbes returning again and again like familiar neighbors. That stability is why scientists sometimes compare the microbiome to a signature. It can help distinguish one person from another in research settings, especially when measured repeatedly. Yet it is not fixed. It can drift with new routines, life changes, and age. That combination is what makes it fascinating. It is personal enough to be recognizable and flexible enough to be influenced. Your microbiome is part diary and part weather report, recording the past while responding to the present. Some microbes thrive only when oxygen is almost completely absent. Many gut microbes are true anaerobes, meaning oxygen is not a helpful resource for them. In fact, for some, oxygen can be toxic. These organisms evolved for environments where oxygen rarely intrudes, and they carry chemical machinery built for low oxygen living. That changes what foods they can use and what byproducts they release. It also shapes where they settle. They tend to do best deeper in the large intestine, where conditions are more stable and oxygen is scarce. This is one reason the gut is not just one habitat. It is a gradient, with different zones that favor different lifestyles. For an anaerobe, the gut can feel like a protected cave system with a steady supply of leftovers. When oxygen levels rise during inflammation or rapid transit, these microbes may struggle, and other species may take their place. The ecosystem can shift simply because the air changed. The gut is mostly low oxygen, which shapes which microbes can survive. Oxygen enters the body through lungs, not through lunch, so the inside of the intestines ends up with very little free oxygen. The gut lining uses oxygen for its own needs, and what remains drops quickly as you move inward toward the contents. That creates a layered world. Near the wall, there can be a little more oxygen. Farther away, conditions become more anaerobic. Different microbes are built for these layers, so location becomes a kind of sorting system. It is like a coastline where different plants grow at different distances from the sea. This low oxygen setting also helps explain why many gut microbes are difficult to study with older lab methods. If you expose them to air, they do not behave normally, and some will not survive at all. The gut environment is not just warm and wet. It is defined by chemistry of gases, and oxygen is one of the biggest gatekeepers. Gut bacteria can swap genes, sharing tools for survival. Bacteria do not rely only on slow mutation and inheritance. They can share genetic material directly, passing useful traits like a toolkit handed across a fence. This sharing can happen through small DNA loops called plasmids, or through viral carriers that move genes between cells. In the gut, where microbes live close together and face constant challenges, gene swapping can be a powerful advantage. It can help a microbe adapt to a new food source. It can help it resist a toxin. It can even change how it interacts with the immune system. The dramatic side is that antibiotic-resistant genes can also spread this way, which is one reason microbial communities can change quickly under drug pressure. The hopeful side is that this sharing also supports flexibility. The gut is a busy marketplace of genetic ideas, and microbes are skilled traders. When conditions shift, gene swapping helps some residents keep up, rather than vanish. The gut can recover after disruptions, but the path is not identical. After illness, antibiotics, or major diet changes, the microbiome often moves towards stability again. Yet it may not return to the exact same composition it had before. Some species might have been lost, and others might take their place. Think of a forest after a storm. Trees regrow, but the mix can change depending on what seeds remain and what conditions follow. In the gut, recovery depends on what survived the disruption, what you eat during the rebuilding period, and what microbes are available to recolonize. Timing matters too. Early colonizers can shape the environment for later arrivals. which can steer the whole recovery trajectory. This is why two people can take the same antibiotic and end up with different long-term outcomes. The ecosystem is rebuilding from a different starting point each time. Recovery is real, but it is also a new chapter, not a rewind button. The gut remembers what happened through the community it becomes afterward. Diet changes can shift gut microbes within days in many studies. The microbiome is quick to respond because its members reproduce fast, and their food supply can change overnight. Add more legumes, whole grains or vegetables, and fiber specialists may begin to expand. Switch to a very different pattern, and other groups may grow instead. Researchers have seen measurable changes in microbial composition and metabolic outputs within a short time window, sometimes just a few days. That speed can feel almost unbelievable, yet it makes sense. Microbes are not waiting for your long-term goals. They are responding to what arrives now. This is also why sudden diet changes can bring temporary discomfort. The community is reorganizing, and fermentation patterns can shift before the gut feels steady again. Over time, the system often settles into a new balance that matches the new inputs. The important point is that the microbiome is not a distant background feature. It is responsive, and it can be influenced faster than many parts of the body. The gut is an ecosystem, and ecosystems depend on balance. A healthy gut is not a single perfect lineup of microbes. It is a network where many species keep each other in check. Some compete for the same food. Some produce acids that limit overgrowth of rivals. Some consume the gases made by others. The gut lining, immune signals, and diet all set the rules of this environment. When balance holds, the system can resist invasion and recover from small disturbances. When balance tips, a few species can dominate, and that shift can change fermentation, irritation, and comfort. This is why simple labels like good and bad bacteria can be misleading. A microbe can be harmless in one context and problematic in another, depending on the surrounding community and the host environment. Ecosystems are defined by relationships, not by isolated characters. Your gut is like a reef. Its stability comes from diversity, competition, cooperation, and the steady rhythms of nourishment and movement that keep everything in motion. The healthiest gut is not one type, but one that adapts well. People often search for one ideal microbiome, as if there is a single winning formula. Yet the gut has to handle changing seasons, changing meals, stress, travel, and illness. Adaptability may be the better goal. A resilient gut ecosystem can shift when inputs change, then settle again without spiraling into long-term instability. That resilience can come from diversity, from supportive diets, and from a barrier and immune system that stay calm when they should. It can also come from the ability to produce helpful metabolites under many conditions, rather than relying on one narrow pathway. This is why two healthy people can have different microbial profiles. Their ecosystems may be different, yet both function well. Health is not uniformity. It is responsiveness with stability. A gut that adapts well can meet a new meal without panic, recover after disruption, and keep the body supplied and protected through ordinary life. The goal is not perfection. The goal is a system that can handle change. Caring for your gut can influence digestion, immunity, and overall resilience. Support the gut, and you support a hub that touches many systems. Regular meals can help establish predictable movement patterns. Diverse plant foods can feed a wider range of microbes, which can strengthen stability. Hydration supports smoother transit and comfortable stools. Managing stress and protecting sleep can reduce the signals that disturb motility and sensitivity. Thoughtful use of medicines matters too, especially antibiotics, which should be used when needed and not casually. None of this requires obsession. It is about steady habits that give the gut good conditions. When those conditions improve, digestion can feel smoother, immune responses can become less reactive, and recovery from disruptions can be easier. The gut is not a separate compartment. It is a meeting point between food, microbes, barrier tissue, and immune training. When you care for it, you are caring for one of the body's main interfaces with the outside world. That can show up as comfort, steadier energy, and a stronger sense of physical resilience. As we come to the end of our journey, you can let the world outside you fade a little further away. Tonight, we wandered through the gut, that long inner passage where meals become energy, where barriers decide what enters and what stays out, and where the immune system trains with patient precision. We drifted past the stomach's fierce chemistry and its careful protections, then into the small intestine's vast absorbing surface, folded and textured to capture what the body needs. We paused at the microbial cities in the colon, where fiber becomes new molecules, where messages are rewritten, and where balance is always being negotiated. And if you zoom out, it is all one quiet miracle of cooperation. Muscles that ripple in rhythm, cells that replace themselves again and again, signals that travel by nerve and hormone, a living ecosystem that shifts with your days, yet still works through the night. If you enjoyed this trip through the hidden world inside you, you can like the video, subscribe, or leave a comment with what surprised you most. It helps the channel reach more curious minds, and it keeps these sleepy science journeys going. Now you do not need to hold on to any details. Let them drift like little boats downstream. Let your jaw unclench. Let your shoulders soften. Feel the steady rise and fall of your breathing, and allow your attention to settle lower, away from thoughts and into the body. Your gut keeps its watch without you. Your cells keep their rhythms without you. And if you are still awake, there is another video waiting on screen, ready to carry you onward. Sleep well, and good night.